欢迎我们的 Mr. Tomlinson 跟我们介绍一下他在这个翻译过程当中的一些体会。So now let's welcome Mr. Tomlinson to share with us his experience in the translation process.
Sure. Well, just to give some background first of all. As Lei mentioned, in 2005 I started an organisation called Make Do Studios, and the reason for starting that was back at that time the selection of Chinese fiction that was translated and published in English was very limited. It was basically restricted to two genres. One was very westernized Chinese fiction written by rather westernized Chinese writers who often maybe lived abroad or at least were fluent in English and had personalities it was easy for publishers to market. A representative book would be Wei Hui's Shanghai Baobei. And the other genre that was very popular was Cultural Revolution memoirs. So these genres both had their value, but they didn't represent the Fengfudal side of Chinese writers. So we started this organization, basically a website, and recruited a lot of Wenchua Qingye to suggest which writers they liked. And a lot of them were young students in their 20s. They tend to suggest writers like Annie Baobei, female writers like that. And we translated a whole lot of them and put them on the website to try and interest them in publishing. But among them, there was one that I particularly liked, and it was this novel, Handu. I've read it many, many times, and I never get tired of reading it. It's a very rich novel. I think it's also a significant novel for three reasons. Firstly, it's part of the flourishing of internet fiction which happened in the first part of the last decade, and which really broadened the scope of Chinese fiction, I think, not only for these internet writers, but also for sort of mainstream writers like Yu Hua, for example, Wu Yang. I think the range of things that are written about in Chinese fiction now is a lot wider than it was maybe 10 years ago. Topics like sex and corruption, and not politically, directly politically sensitive topics, but present a somewhat dark view of society. And I think writers like Zhurong had an important part to play. This novel was perceived as being breaking new ground in terms of the type of experience of writing about young people in contemporary cities. So it was important for that reason. Secondly, I think it's important because it launched an important literary career. I think Zhurong's a very talented writer, has command of all the basics, plot, characterization, language is very rich, and he has big themes. So I think he's a very talented writer. He's subsequently written 3 novels, which launched. And thirdly, I think it's been an influential novel in terms of other writers who've come along since then. And there was a well-known critic called Fei Yong, who said that if there's one novel, that's a contemporary novel, that we'll all be reading in 50 years' time, so we read it's
So you have several techniques to tackle some problems. If we try to find the equivalent in English, that maybe at other times you try to add some footnotes, right? So if you could just mention that.
So I mean, sometimes it's a question of. Sometimes you think for a long time, and then suddenly you think of a functional equivalent. I think that I worked with a collaborator to start with. The translation process actually changed me. So I started working with a collaborator, and we produced joint drafts. But I found that that way the result wasn't so good. It clung too closely to the original syntax of the images. So later on, I produced the first drafts myself, and then worked closely with my collaborator and with Zhurong as well to do it. I think that was different translators have different ways to do it. I think Howard Goldblatt and his collaborator, they each produce a draft, and then they sort of there are different ways to do it.
刚才王先生有提到，就是在成都企业形象文章里面，它主要有一种思想，就是一种自我怀疑 self-doubt。那您可不可以在这方面再跟大家就是分享一下？因为你刚才说 Harvey 不同意你这个讲法，为什么自我怀疑更比忠诚更接近上帝？
我是这么想的。我出生在中国大陆的北方东北，从小到大呢，就是我在学校里，在教科书上学到了很多我以为是真以为是真理的那样的东西。但是后来慢慢的，随着我年龄的增长，随着我读了一些越来越多的书，我发现不对，那些东西不是真理，那东西甚至呢有很多都是谬误。甚至我觉得这东西原来是错的，原来以前不是。我就在想，我们学知识也好，我们学科学也好，我想最基本的一个心态是什么？就是怀疑。我们讲哲学就是对身边的见惯不惊的那种事情，对它表示怀疑。这样在这个基础上，我们才会掌握知识、掌握学问，才会有智慧。在这个问题上呢，你比如说在陈仲这样的人，陈仲大概是我的同龄人，那么也是出生在1970年以后。那么这批人呢，从小呢也被教导，我们要对这个世界呢要为人民服务，我们要做各种各样的好事，我们要健康向上。很多名词呢，在座的年轻的人可能不知道。比如说我们就很叫五讲四美三热爱，要五讲四美三热爱。那后来发现这些东西呢，我们都以为这些东西是好，都以为戴着红领巾在那里唱，时刻准备着，我们是空前主义这个儿童团，所以这样的话，当时都以为很光荣。我小学的时候带过2道杠，这个猪头中队长，当过中队长，那么后来对这种事情呢，我慢慢的开始怀疑的时候，我就发现，你要做一个真正的人，或者说你要做一个真正比较高尚的人，那么就应该对这一切表示怀疑，而不是无条件的去认同他、尊重他。
I think that's all for today's workshop. So thank you very much, Javier Zuro.